context of the Christian church is that most painful and difficult period when we try to connect ourselves to Jesus as he moves toward Jerusalem. And throughout the period of Lent, we try to feel what Jesus was feeling and to have some sense of his suffering and sadness, his shame and humiliation. Lent is that dark and painful period in the life of the church. Likewise, in the life of Christ, today is the day that we mark the beginning of that journey towards Jerusalem. And Jesus, who has been with his disciples for a short while and has been teaching them about the wonder and the glory of God's love, knows that in the next few weeks, his disciples are going to be challenged in the worst possible way. They're going to come face to face with suffering and depravity and pain and death and hopelessness and despair and misery of every kind. And Jesus is saying to himself, I wonder if my disciples are going to be strong enough to endure the test that is coming. May have thought to himself, in spite of all that I have taught them, this is going to be too much. What can I do to give them some inspiration and let them know that it's going to be all right? And Jesus makes his decision. And it must have been a very difficult one at this point. And he decides to take James and John and Peter up to the mountaintop. And he is going to show those three disciples what and who he truly is. In spite of having seen many miracles and many strange things, they still aren't sure about him. And up on the mountaintop, this thing called the Transfiguration happens. And when James and John and Peter turn their backs for a few moments to have a little nap, something happens to Jesus. His face begins to shine with a divine light. And his clothes turn a brilliant, bright, dazzling white, and he is glowing with light and power. And the disciples wake up and they see this, and they are in absolute shock and awe at what has happened to this man who a few moments ago was covered in the dust from the roads of Galilee. And in the midst of that, not only do they see Jesus, but they also see Moses, the one who led the people out from death and slavery in Egypt and gave them freedom. And they also see Elijah, that one who lived so close to God, standing beside Jesus. They don't know what to make of it. They, of course, want to build tents for the festival of tents. But Jesus says to them, he says, don't worry about building shelters for us. What you are seeing here is not something that requires any earthly shelter. Now, this is what you have to know about the Transfiguration. In that event, Jesus was not changing. Nothing changed in Jesus. This is always what Jesus was and always will be. Jesus is that being of pure light, pure power, pure energy over which there is no power in the whole universe. That's always what he has been. But in that moment, Jesus revealed himself and revealed his true nature to those disciples so that when the next dark days came up, they would not be broken by them. This is Christ's way of saying, look upon me as I truly am. I am pure light. I am pure energy. I am power. I am fire. I have Moses on my right hand and Elijah on my left. And in the next weeks, when you see me imprisoned and tortured and crucified, do not be broken.